All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So markets here down about 0.5% here on the S&P. Russell basically flat. Dow down about 0.25%, and the NASDAQ down about 1.2, was down about 1.5 at one point earlier today. So markets continuing to pull back here, and some of the levels we talked about yesterday did get hit on the spiders, but we do have to take into account the dividend. So right now I'm going to go off of the SPX, and you're going to see we're basically just, it looks like they're just going to save Thursday's low. So I know I talked about the 436.23 yesterday. We're going to go with the SPX today, just because I forgot to take into account that dividend there, which does skew it just a little bit. So 436, I should say 4,362 spot 60, if that made sense. That was the low from Thursday, and we're just above that right now. So that is going to be the level to watch here. We're also watching, you have kind of a trend line here. I know it's on the daily, hard to see, but on the hourly, you can see a nice little hourly trend line that did get broken yesterday and closed below. But one I'm watching right now is you do have a little bit of a head and shoulder top there on the hourly as well. And, you know, you can see here we closed above it yesterday, we formed that right shoulder. Today we gapped down, we retested it, and now we're just kind of inside here. So basically kind of just like an inside bar there. We'll see if this gaps down tomorrow, or if we stay below that neckline, you know, then we'll look at 43.40 for continued downside. But with that continued downside would probably get you a close below this green bar. So, you know, then again, we could talk about 4,300, right? And we looked at the spiders yesterday. We basically laid out the same thing, right? 430, all these pivot highs right there. So that would be kind of your next logical, you know, stopping point if we were to continue down. You know, if they save this and they hold, and it holds up, again, basically going back to what we said yesterday, you know, your upside is up to that 450 handle, right? So that is pretty clear and obvious. 4,500, and to add to that, you know, you do have the not the 618, sorry, the 7.5 retrace, which is right in that wheelhouse right there. So again, those are the levels that we're watching here. Right now we don't have a ton of volume, so again, we don't want to make too much out of it. Just 60 million shares here with 10 minutes to go. So it's not like we're seeing mass dumping here. I will say we are seeing some distribution, at least some signs of it. Take a look at Tesla today, engulfing reversal on, you know, a pretty good uptick in volume. So that is you know, almost 200 million shares. So that's a pretty good amount there. So definitely some distribution. Again, going into this big resistance zone, I said, look, it's defying gravity right now. But eventually gravity does matter. And, you know, you're going into this area, this big breakdown area. Anybody that was a buyer there is probably going to turn into a seller pretty soon, and we're seeing that kind of happen today. And also probably seeing some profit taking. Take a look at NVIDIA. Now it's not, you know, it's not down a ton, only down 1.3, and it is well off the lows, but you had some pretty good volume here in the morning. So it does suggest you got institutional dumping. Who's buying? Retail and algos, right? So they're happy to get those shares off their hands. But, you know, it's had an amazing run here, and this is the type of stuff you see at the top, people chasing and sell, or, you know, buying into the institution selling. So again, seeing a little bit of evidence of that. Take a look at another semiconductor, leading semiconductor, AMD. You know, you can make a case here. Now we'll see how this behaves tomorrow. 110 is going to be important. If it can hold that and you can reverse, then this can hold up all right. But right now, you can make a case it's just a big fat island here, and we had an outside move down today, and we're not really off the lows very much. Also looking at the 618 here, you know, you can make a case that that's held up. Now, you do have a ways to go right on the weekly, right? You know, if 110 holds and you're holding up, but you're still, you know, 15% away from that 20 moving average. So there's room here on the downside if that 110 area doesn't hold tomorrow, and that's the 50% fib, pivot high, gap fill as well, right? And if you take a look here, I know I'm throwing a lot of lines at you, but the Bollinger Band there, that is pointing up. So you gap down into that. There's a good chance they could bounce this tomorrow. But, you know, if you consolidate, then it can go lower. But anyway, just pointing out some movement here and definitely some profit taking. Take a look at the volume 2. You know, again, pretty high there, some distribution. These have all had amazing runs, right? So that's why you don't chase at these levels. And, you know, you wait for corrections if you want to get in. But either way, market's still very lofty here, still due for some pulling back as we've talked about. And maybe this is the start of more. But right now, until you really get a close below last Thursday's low, it's hard for me to really trust anything. But you do have that little hourly head and shoulders, so that could be a sign of possible things to come here. Triple Q's obviously taking the biggest hit. Semiconductors down 2% on the day. Again, Tesla finally pulling back. NVIDIA pulling back a little bit. We just talked about AMD, obviously. We'll get into cloud software in a minute. But again, same kind of pattern on the Q's. Little head and shoulder there. If that plays out, just a quick calculation, that can take you down to 353. So watch that. And that would likely coincide, right? And then there's your 20-day moving average right at 354. And that would likely coincide with that 4,300 area there on the spiders. So something to watch moving forward here. But a lot of trendline resistance too. Again, I know the NASDAQ's a powerhouse, but, you know, pivot high, previous pivot high, weekly level, big weekly trend line going back to 2020 as well. So pretty good convergence there. And usually that will give you some good resistance. So just be aware of that. IWM here again on the flat side. This can still move higher. And this is what I talked about over the weekend. I said, look, you know, the spiders still could have a little bit of upside. I don't see as much in the NASDAQ. And you could see sectors like small caps, maybe banks, healthcare, that type of thing. Actually, XLE having an up day. So you see some other sectors other than tech start to take over a little bit. And you can see, you know, how the IWM could get up to 192. Whereas the NASDAQ may just be flat to positive as opposed to having sort of a big update. But again, still nothing changed there on the Russell 2000. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Dow here down as well. Again, nothing crazy going on here. If this pulls back, it can still get up to 348. But, you know, it is now setting up to move below, again, Thursday's low. Let's look at the actual Dow here, DJI. So that is still above that area. Again, those dividends do skew things, so you always got to pay attention to that. But right now, still kind of holding that green bar low. So if it breaks that, then you're probably back down to 33.5. So just be aware of that. All right, semiconductors, we talked a little bit about, down 2.25. Again, we'll see how it reacts to the 20-day moving average. And again, you know, like I said, gravity does matter eventually. You're going to a lot of resistance. You're overbought. I mean, you're talking about 118 to 157 in really, you know, 3, 6, 7, 8 weeks. And you can make a case, you know, let's just say 122 to 157 in 5 weeks, really. You can make that case. So very overbought, very stretched here into resistance, and not surprising to see these things start to come in a little bit. Cloud software we talked about never quite got to that level. Very close to that pivot high, and it pulled back here. Down 1 3/4 here. So that is going to close below this green bar low here. Oracle is down today as well. Nothing crazy here. But again, seeing these things pull back a little bit. If this goes a little bit lower, you'll have some support at 333. You know, and then really the big level right now is 330. And then you've got that 20-day moving average. So I'll break that. And by the way, take a look at the volume here. It's starting to pick up a little bit again. So we're seeing some distribution here. Definitely make note of that moving forward. Anyways, over to the transports. FedEx reporting yesterday. That got a nice algo pop earlier and then came way back in. Little lightsaber candle there. UPS, same thing, getting that sympathy bid. But transports... here, managing to be green, so, or at least on the flat line. Let's take a look at the Jets. Yeah, Jets basically flat as well. Trucking names, I'm assuming. Yeah, Ryder Systems, XPO, yeah, so trucking names kind of helping out there. What are CSX? Yeah, trucking names and rails holding up. Actually, well, there's UPS. UNP, that's what I wanted. There we go. Trucking names and rails holding up. Airlines and delivery names down a little bit, but either way, transports here flat, nothing wrong. This can still get to 15.2. Nothing has changed there. All right, over to interest rates here. So let's take a look at the 10-year, or excuse me, the 2-year, as we always start out with. Bitcoin, we'll get into a minute. Big pop there. But 10-year, or excuse me, the 2-year, this still looks fine. Up move, little pullback. Now you're just kind of grinding here sideways. You know, you consolidate a little bit more. This is headed to 5%. Which I fully expect probably in the not too distant future here. 5 looks fine. That for a move to 4.2. 10-year, you get above this level, it's back up to 4%. And then the 30-year, you get above 4%, and that's headed to 420. So yield's still holding up okay. No real problems there that I can see currently. All right, over to housing, XHB, big day. So up 56 basis points. This can still get to 78. ITB can still get to 83. No problems. VNQ pulling back as well. Still an inside bar pattern. Still inside of this green bar here on a closing basis, so no problems there. We'll see what that does, but it did pull back pretty sharply today. And again, it's been a weak sector for a long time. XLF, basically flat to lower. Again, still kind of got that weekly bear flag look. Rejection of the 200 moving average. Not the greatest look here for the XLF, but it's holding up for now. And we'll leave it at that. KRE starting to dip a little bit here. So losing that 20 moving average, definitely not a good sign. Not broken yet, down 1.5%, not broken. But you lose that 50 MA and you lose this green bar, and really you lose that 40 handle, that's going to be a pretty good sign of weakness, because this is it was a nice pullback pattern. It's starting to get weaker though, not a good sign. And we are dipping down here in the last 10 minutes as well. So a little bit of dumping going on there in the financials. KBE, same thing, losing the 20 MA. Below that green bar right here is a failed inside bar, so just be aware of that. Financials starting to roll over a bit here. XBD still holding up, still inside bar there, and that can still get around 490. Crude, so that was up 2%. All energy was up nicely today. Yeah, crude getting a nice pop. If it continues higher, 76 is kind of max move for right now. You did get above that red bar on a close, so that is a sign of strength here in the near term. I still think it's setting up a big pattern for a move lower, but right now getting a little bit of a bid. XLE up, although it's coming off the highs a little bit here, up 82 basis points, and you can make a case right now that's a 20 MA rejection there, so a little bit of weakness. Again, I don't like the weekly pattern on that. XOP, same thing. OIH, the best of the bunch right now. That's holding up okay. That can still advance higher. I need to see a weekly close above 280, though. All right, market's set to close here. Yeah, so basically closing right around the lows of the day. We'll get back over to the spiders in a minute. Natural gas having a nice day, up over 4%. And that is after, that big retrace yesterday. So nice move there. We got above this trend line, kind of bouncing right back off it. Obviously, we've been following this range as well. And what I've noticed here is every time you get up to 250, or at least the last couple of times, they've pushed it right down. They pushed it right down. Today, they tried to push it down yesterday, and it came right back up. So if you get more flagging here, this is setting up for a move higher. But yeah, nice little rounded bottom there for nat gas. That should get going. All right, dollar index continues to be weak. That's down 0.5% here. And again, we flipped bear last week on this one when you broke this level and got that weekly close, negating that inside bar and closing below that 102.76 area. So again, dollar continuing to be weak. I don't really have a great read on it right now. Need to see what it wants to do here. If it shapes up and you get back above 103, then things can change. But right now, just kind of an inside day. Nothing great, and really closed right at the lows of the day there. So nothing good there. Maybe needs to go down and test 100 still. We'll see about that. All right, gold here. That's still hanging on. Again, today was a little bit of a weirder day. So VIX was down, markets were down, dollar was down, gold is down. Silver, also, we talked about that yesterday, got pounded, and that we got pounded again today. But back to gold here. Again, nothing's changed, but if you close below that 20-week moving average, this is setting up for a move down. It's pretty much that simple at this point. And it's been building a base here. So again, this can go lower. Just be aware of that. Silver here down 2% on the day. I still remember the hysteria here. Everybody's telling me I was an idiot for not buying silver up here, and you can see how that works. Don't buy into the hype. Don't chase. There's always going to be a correction. In fact, we were shorting silver up here, but either way, nice dump down. Basically, kissed that 200 moving average. We've been talking about 22 to 21. We'll see if it can get there, but right now, silver in a little bit of bad shape here, especially that you made a new lower low there. So high, lower high, and now a lower low there on the daily and weekly of silver. All right. Okay, back over to platinum. So platinum down 2% as well. Tested 960, and it's right through that. So next really good level is probably going to be around 920. There's a little bit of a pivot here, but 920, right in this range, that big green bar. That's going to be where it's going to want to go. You see that right there. So that is your next big level there on platinum. I'm still avoiding these metals right now, but I am watching them for patterns. Same thing with palladium here. That was down 2.4. Still avoiding this one, but watching it as well. And then copper here up 0.5%. This is still, this is trying to consolidate. So we'll see. Maybe this can get to 4. If you flag here a little bit more, you got, probably got to do another week or 2 of flagging. But if you do that, you can get up to $4. If it breaks down, then you'll have support at 376, 370, and then really down to 340 is kind of be my big level for copper. All right, let's get over to Bitcoin. Power up move, right? So we talked about that little trend line there, and we just blew through that. And remember the other day I said this, I think it was over the weekend actually, but I was like looking on the, looking at this pattern here. It looks like it wants to break down a little bit, but I said, how they do this with Bitcoin? Sometimes it just takes off out of nowhere, and sure enough, a couple days later, boom, 1-2 big pop there. Why is it popping? Well, you got the ETF news. You got Powell coming out today saying that crypto is a security essentially. And they're kind of lately crypto's been beaten down because of these, the SEC, the regulatory bodies coming down hard on Coinbase and some, Binance. And now it's getting a little bit of relief here. So you're getting that big bid. We've been talking about it for a while. It should get to 32, 32.5. We'll see how it reacts when it gets there. Really would have liked for it to get to 23.5 here for a long setup, but, just never quite played out. It got really close, right? So right there. Very close. But, that's just the way it works sometimes. But either way, we're looking at 32 to 32.5 now for Bitcoin. Obviously, you're seeing a little bit of pullback there off a double top, but 32 to 32.5 is the big level for Bitcoin. All right, lastly, again, let's get back over here. I'm just going to look at the SPX. Again, watch this area. They close it above Thursday's low, so it's still hanging in there. But watch that hourly pattern. Going into tomorrow, you get back above that trend line and subsequently the 20-hour, the hourly 20 MA, we can go right back up here. But you start to take out these lows, watch that 43.40 area, and then ultimately the really big level is 4,300. All right, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you all tomorrow.